So welcome back everyone, and like I mentioned earlier, this is going to focus strictly on our eAssessment platform, on how to find the bank of pre-made question sets that we have provided for you, as well as the pre-made lesson and module assessments that go along with your Georgia Inspire Science. So I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you where you find your online assessment center. So from the menu, from your teacher center, you're going to click on the menu on the upper left-hand corner, and you're going to scroll down to the part that says assessment. Now, when you click on assessments, it's going to give you two options, online assessments and print assessments. If you click on print assessments, you're not going to get any results because all of the assessments reside on the online assessment platform. So you have to click online assessments. Now, these assessments can be administered to your students online, and they can take them digitally online. Or once you create the assessment, you then have the option of printing these out for your students as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So once you're inside, or once you click on Online Assessment Center, it's going to open in a separate window for you. So make sure you go full screen on that window so that it's, you see it entirely on your screen, and it's very easy to go ahead and work with. So once you're here, I want to show you that there are 3 different sections that make up our Online Assessment Center, or our eAssessment Center. So on the top right-hand corner right now, you're seeing that it says section and it says test generator. That's what we are in right now. But if you click on the drop down, you're also going to see classes and assignments as well as reporting. And we'll go into those later on in the session. But right now I'm going to stay in my test generator and talk about the different information that you see available to you here. So from your test generator, over on the left-hand side of your screen, you have at the very top your question sets, and there's a folder that says Georgia Inspire Science. And then down at the bottom, you have your test, and again, there's a folder that says Georgia Inspire Science in there as well. So if you want to look at the question sets, you would simply click on the little plus sign next to next to the folder that says Georgia Inspire Science. And once you click on the plus icon, it's going to give you all of the grade levels. Now, each grade level has their own individual question sets. So right now, I'm just going to go to 3rd grade. Again, if I want to expand the information that's in that folder, I'm going to click on that little plus sign next to it. So here I'm seeing for each module, I see the module for earths, rocks, and soils. There's my question sets. So if I want to see those questions, again, just click on the little plus sign. And now this is going to show me all of the questions that are available for me to pull from that question set. Now you'll notice that if I hover over each one of these questions, it kind of pops out for me in a little window. So I see that these are true and false questions. As I continue to scroll down, I might see some fill in the blank or some multiple choice questions, maybe some essay questions in here. But this is the entire bank for just that one module that I just chose right now. So there's a lot of questions that you can pull from here. Now, the questions that you're seeing up here are going to be different, and let me just close this up real quickly. The questions that you're seeing in the question sets are going to be different than the ones that you're seeing in the actual test for the modules. So when I click on the Inspire Science folder for Georgia, and I go to grade 3, it's going to give me for every module a lesson test. So for example, in module 1, there are 3 lessons. So it's going to give me a test for each lesson. And then it's also going to give me a module test that I can use at the end of that chapter. So the same thing, if I wanted to see what were the questions on here, I can click on the little plus sign and see the questions this way. Or the other nice thing that you can do with these is that once you click on the title of that assessment or of that question set, you can actually just click and drag it anywhere in this blue area that's here to the right of the screen and just let it go. And that opens up the assessment so that you can see all of the questions that are on that assessment. So just a little bit of information here. So if you look over to the right-hand side, I'm in my test generator still. I can click on the little X here to exit out of this test. Right here, it's telling me there's a total of 30 questions. I remember I pulled in the module test, so I expect this one to have a lot more questions than my individual lesson assessments. So here I have 30 questions, and it's showing me that right now, if I scroll down on this page, I'm only seeing 10 questions. So here are my 10 questions that I'm able to see, but the test itself is 30. So if I want to see all of them, I simply click on the drop down, select all questions, and now I'm going to be able to see all 30 questions that are on this test. You're also probably noticing right now that as you're looking at the question, it gives you the answer choices, but it's also letting you know what the correct answer is for that particular question. Now, you're seeing this obviously because you're the teacher and you're in that teacher view. When you go to print the assessment or when you go to assign the assessment to the students to complete digitally, they're not going to see those answer choices, or they're not going to see the correct answer choice for each question. They're only going to see the question, if there's an image or any kind of data chart that they need to use, and then the answer choices that are available to them. So just keep that in mind. So that is me viewing the pre-made assessment. Now, I can't edit this test right now because this is not my personal copy. This is the original McGraw-Hill test. So you'll notice that if I go over here to the little pencil and I click on edit, I'm going to get a message, and it might take a little bit to load that message, but I'm going to get a message eventually that tells me that I can't edit this test because it is not my test. So if you like the test that we have provided, but maybe you want to make some small adjustments to it, or you want to make some modifications to that assessment, you are able to do that. So right now what I'm going to do is, let me select a lesson test because these are a little bit shorter. So again, I'm just clicking on the test that I want to modify, and I'm going to do a right click. And you'll notice that I'll get a couple of options, and one of the options is to duplicate this test. So once I duplicate this test, you'll notice now that it says copy of. So now this copy, I'm just going to drag it over, and I can do whatever I want to this copy. Okay, now this is a lesson 2 test, so you'll notice on the top right hand corner it tells me there's only 10 questions because this is a lesson test versus the module test that had 30 questions. So now let's say I wanted to make a change to question number 1. Maybe the way that the question is being worded or the statement is being worded is a little bit misleading to my students, or maybe I just want to simplify the way that that question is written. So because this is my copy, I can now click on the little drop down for the pencil, select edit, and now it's going to let me actually edit this first question here. So I'm just going to write, so you can just see that that's going to be the question that I changed. Now that's what the students are going to see as, you know, as far as like the question. Now this question was a true or false question. So again, if I change it and now the answer is false, I can come down here to the bottom left and change that. If it were multiple choices, I can go in there and change each choice that the student has. But right now, I'm just going to change the way that the question is worded. You can also change the point value. On the top right-hand corner here where it says points, maybe this is a short answer question or an essay question, and maybe those are going to be worth more than just 1 point. I can increase the point value for this question as well. So let's just change that to 3. So now you'll notice here's my question. This is a change I made to the question. I left it as true. I didn't change that. The other thing that you can do for any one of these questions is you can delete the question completely, or you can duplicate the question if you wanted to use the question and then maybe just do some changes to the answer choices and things like that. So you do have an option, and you'll notice that little pencil option comes up anytime I hover over that question. I get those options there. Okay, so again, all I did was I clicked on the test, I did a right click on it, and then once I do a right click, it's going to bring up the option for me to duplicate that test, and then that test becomes my personal copy that I can use, and I can make modifications to that test as I see necessary. The other thing that you have an option for, because this is now my personal test, is maybe I want to add some additional questions to this assessment. So right now I only have 10 questions here, but maybe I want to add 1 or 2 maybe extra credit questions to the test to give my students the opportunity to get some extra points on there if they get some wrong. So again, I am in my copy of my test, and I know that because right up here on the top corner it says copy of, and I know that that's my copy. Now right below that you have a menu, and you have these little icons here, and if you want to add a question to this assessment, you would click on the first icon, which is that plus sign, that little green plus sign, and then it's going to ask you what type of question you would like to create. So if I want to create maybe some additional true and false questions, I could do that. If I wanted to create an additional essay question, I can also do that. So right now, let's just go to essay, click OK. And here I would type in whatever the question is that I want to put in here. So maybe so just letting my students know this is extra credit. So again, maybe they all want to answer the essay for extra credit, or maybe some students are just going to say no because I know I got all 10 of them correctly, so I'm not even going to answer this question. But here is the question that the teacher would type up. And again, you would assign the point value. So maybe this one is going to be worth 5 extra points. Click OK. And anytime you add a question to your assessment, oh, did I not save it? I thought I did. Let's see, all questions. I might have gone to the next page. Yeah, there it is. Anytime you add a question to your assessment, you're going to see that it goes to the very end of the list of questions that were already on there. So if I add another question, it's just going to go right here underneath number 11 to become number 12, and so on and so forth. Okay, so any questions so far on what I've shown you? So right now I showed you how to identify your question sets, how to look at your pre-made assessments, and kind of how to view the questions. I showed you how you can make a copy of your assessment so far, and then how to modify those if you needed to. So one question that came in is, with the essay part, can you type in potential answers? And I'm trying to think, so would it be an essay question though, or do you think maybe, I'm trying to think if it might not be an essay question that you're trying to do, or maybe I'm just not understanding your question.
An open-ended question with potential answers that the teacher may look for.
Okay, so give me an example. Can you give me an example of something that you might ask like that?
If you ask the students to differentiate between the different states of matter,
Mm-hmm.
you have to type that in. How would that look if I was trying to type in a potential answer for them?
So again, you would do it, you want to do that one as an essay question?
It can be an essay or maybe open-ended or a short response.
Yeah, so the options that you have, and let me just double check here. So you have true, false, yes, no. You can do multiple responses, which is kind of like a multi-select. So it's A, B, and D, let's say. Completion would be like a fill in the blank. A subjective short answer. Essay, I'm trying to think of, yeah, the only thing that I would do for that one, for the one that you said, like describing the states of matter or describe, the 3 states of matter, I would do that as an essay question. And I would, make sure that I include in there that they have to do all 3 in order to get full credit for each one. Or the other thing that you can do is kind of give them, so when I create the essay, let me go back here and say, do you want them to describe, what was your question again that you said, the example that you gave me?
That they would state the different states of matter.
And do you want them to like give an example of each
Give
or
an
anything
example.
like
Correct.
that? I cannot spell today. So here I have, so state the different states of matter and give an example of each. And again, this would be something that you would have to decide the point value, because there could be that student that states, or the 3 different states of matter, but then doesn't give an example for each. So you would have to decide at this point, how many points do you want this question to be? And I would say you could probably even give them like an example, like, one state of matter is solid. Something that is a solid is, and like you could write in here, for example. I really cannot spell today. Wow, I am so sorry. Like my spelling is like way off. An example. I'm just gonna write here a pen. So you can write an example for them so that they know exactly what it is that you're looking for. And then just obviously, again, make sure that you add all 3. You can add up here where for the point value, maybe this is going to be worth 6 points, because first they need to get those 3 states correctly. And then they also have to give an example of each. So you can make this question be worth 6 points for the students, and then click OK. So again, this is what it would look like on their end when they see it. Did I answer your question? I don't know if I'm answering your question the way that.
The question part is right, but then is there a way that I can type in what a potential answer would be? So you see how the other questions have the answers highlighted? Will I be able to type in what a potential answer, and will the system pick it up?
Oh, okay. So let me clarify. So right here where it says answer, like for number 9, like it says gravel is a soil that is very blank. So this is just so that you as a teacher know that the correct answer to this question is B. Like the students are not going to see this answer here. Like, let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go file, and let's say I'm going to print this, I want you to see what it's going to look like. So print answer key is going to be for the teacher answer key, not something that you would give to the students. But let me just click OK. Yeah, the students will never see that answers part underneath each question. That is just letting you as a teacher know that that is the correct answer for that one. So let me show you. This is what the students are going to see. Like you see how the answer part is gone?
Yes.
So like if I go to any of the multiple choice or any of these, like it's not there. That's why I put here, like for example, solids is an example, an example of a solid would be a pen. Like I'm just telling them what an example would be, kind of like a little bit of a hint so that they understand what it is that I'm looking for. But yeah, they would never see that answer part. Does that answer your question? Does that kind of clarify?
So when I'm scoring the paper for those open-ended questions, then I would have to read them. The system is not going to automatically score them as it would a multiple choice or true false.
Correct. Yes. So if it's a multiple choice, a true false, or a yes or no, all of those kind of questions, those the system automatically grades for you. But anytime it's an essay question, you would have to go in and manually give the score or the points for that question. Yeah, it's not going to grade those for you. But that's a great question. Okay. I see another question came in. Let me just, okay, you put that, you got it. Okay. Okay, so we're done with that part. And again, all of these can be assigned to your students to complete digitally, or they can be printed out. And for those of you that didn't see where I went to print it, I simply clicked on File on my menu, and then selected Print to PDF. And then here's where you're able to also create multiple versions of this assessment. So if you know that your students sit really close together and they tend to want to look off of each other's papers and cheat, I can also go on here and print multiple versions of the assessment. So nobody is going to have the same exact version. And again, for those questions that are true, false, multiple choice, the system will automatically grade those for you if you do it digitally, and it doesn't matter what order the questions are in. Or you can do a single version and everybody's taking the same test, the same exact, you know, my number one is your number one, my first, you know, my ABC choices are the same ABC choices that you are seeing as well. So you are able to go ahead and print out a PDF of that assessment. So let me get out of assessment. Okay, so showed
Before
you,
you,
yeah,
excuse,
go ahead.
before you leave assessments, do have a question.
Yes.
Um, so the test, they don't seem like they are aligned to our GSC standards anymore. Like the first year they were aligned, but this past year, I was having to go in and remove questions because they were not over things that we had covered within each module. Is it possible to get that corrected?
Okay, so let me show you another way that you can create tests. Because right now I showed you the pre-made ones here.
Hmm.
And the question sets at the top, right? So you also notice that when I'm in the test generator section, in the center here in this blue area, I have the option to create a new test. So when I click create a new test, it gives me 3 different options of how to build that test. Down here at the bottom, it gives me, the first option is to build a test with the question sets, okay? And to select by the question type. So if I wanted maybe all multiple choice questions or all short response questions, I can pull in questions like that. The second option here, I am able to select by the state standards or by the difficulty level. So maybe, I'm assuming maybe this is what you want or what you're looking for. So let
Okay,
me
yeah.
show you, yeah, and I'll show you this one right now since it goes with what you asked about the state standards. And I'm going to say this is a chapter 1 test, okay, that we're creating. And we're creating it based off, and I'll do both. I'll show you difficulty level and I'll show you the state standards as well. So you'll notice at the very top here, I had to give my test a title, and then it also asked me what folder I want to place that assessment in. So by default, I always tell teachers, put it in the My Test folder because those are going to be tests that you create yourself. Whether you create your own questions or whether you pull from our question banks, but it's still your test. So I'm going to click My Test. Down here in the build section, I'm going to go with that second option. And the test wizard is pretty much going to walk you through the entire steps along the way. So here it's going to ask you, do you want to pull questions from the question sets, from the test, or from both? So I'm going to say I want to pull questions from both because I want to get the largest amount of questions possible here. So you just have to, again, start drilling down to the grade level that you want by clicking on the plus sign. So I said this was chapter 1, which is module 1, which is earths, rocks, and soil. So I'm going to say pull from the question set, and then I'm going to go down here to the bottom and start opening the test folder. So again, click on the plus sign, there's my third grade. And for third grade, I want to pull from every lesson test that there is for Module 1 and the chapter test as well. Click Next. And here it's going to ask you to kind of drill down by the types of questions that you want. So at the very top is a question information. So I can say, show me by state standard. So based on everything that I selected from the question sets for this particular module, now again, I am only in module 1, so it's probably just starting to cover the content here. So it's telling me these are the standards and then the corresponding number of questions that are tied to that standard. So here I see that there's 27 for the first standard. So if I mean, I could pull all 27 if I wanted to, or I could just say, you know what, from those 27, just give me 5. So in order to do that, I can click on Edit, type in 5, and then click Update. From the second standard here, I'm going to pull maybe another 5, and click Update. And from the last standard, I'm going to pull another 5 as well and click Update. So there I've selected 5 from each standard. I can click Next. The next one is going to give me a summary of what I have selected so far. So here I can always go back and say, you know what, I didn't mean to choose from anything from that second standard, or I want to pull more from that second standard. I can always click back and go back and make those changes. But if I'm happy with these 15 that I've chosen, I click Finish, and now it's going to pull those 15 questions for me. Again, keep in mind when you scroll down, it's only going to show you up to 10 questions. So you just have to go click on the drop down on the right-hand side or top right and click All Questions, and then you'll be able to see all of the 15 questions. The other nice thing, or the other nice feature that you have also is that, remember that I said, okay, for each question, it's telling you as a teacher what the answer is, but maybe I want to know, well, what standard is that addressing? Like what standards are being addressed with each one of these questions? So I'm going to go up to my menu here, and it's going to be the 4th icon. It has a blue background with a lowercase letter I on it. So when I click on that, it's going to give me the option. It says choose which question information fields you want us to show. So right now, I'm only seeing the answer. But if I wanted to, I could tell it, hey, show me the difficulty level for that question. And you know what? Also show me the state standard for each question. And now I can click OK. And it's going to show me all of the information. So it's telling me this is a correct answer. It's a true and false question, so it's a true statement. The difficulty level, if you're looking at Bloom's level, it's a level 1. If you're looking at depth of knowledge, is a level 1. And then if you're looking to see what state standard it's being addressed, this is the state standard. And it's going to do that for each and every single question on this assessment. Does that answer your question?
It does. I really appreciate that. That's cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, I showed you this one. Oh, I almost ended the meeting accidentally. I just showed you by creating a assessment based on standards. Now, if you wanted to create an assessment, you can also do it by difficulty level of question. So let me just exit out of this test real quickly. And I am again going to create a test. And let's do chapter 2 test this time so I don't have a whole bunch of chapter 1s. So this is my chapter 2 test. I'm still going to select that second option from the bottom section here. Click Next. And this time we're going to drill down real quickly to, I'm still going to stay in 3rd grade, but we're going to do the module on energy. And then the same thing, I'm going to drill down to my test and find the module here on energy. So select my test and my module test, click Next. And then when you get to this drop down, I had selected state standards, but you'll notice that you can also do difficulty level. So it tells you how many questions it has. And I don't know, does your school district go by Bloom's level of taxonomy questions or by depth of knowledge questions?
We use DOK, depth of knowledge.
DOK. Okay, perfect, thank you. So you'll notice down here, DOK 1, 2, and 3. So it tells you there's 20, for this module, now I chose chapter 2 or module 2 on energy. So for this module, it tells you there's 23 level 1, 34 level 2, and 9 level 3. So the same idea as before, you simply click edit, select the number that you want to pull. So maybe I want to pull, maybe not 10, maybe I just want to pull 5 from here, and maybe I want to pull 10 from DOK level 2, and maybe from level 3, I just want to pull maybe 2 more questions, let's say, or 3 more. Let's do 3. Click update, update. So here are my 3 questions. Click next. There's my summary of what I selected. Click finish. And then here are my 18 questions that I just selected from that test. So it just depends on how you want to create your test, whether it's by, like I said, by state standards, by difficulty level. If you want to just create an empty test and you pull the questions that you like, that's the other way that you can do it as well. So right now I was pulling, I was telling it specifically the kind of criteria that I was looking for. Oh, I'm getting good feedback from you guys on the chat box. I see that you guys are really liking this and it's easy to differentiate using, okay, good. Awesome stuff, especially for differentiation, absolutely. So the other way that you can do is you can just create an empty test. So right now, if I create an empty test here, and let's do chapter 3 this time around, or module 3. And down here at the bottom, it says build an empty test. So build an empty test, click finish. You'll notice it just gives you an empty area for you to start pulling in questions. So for example, because I did, and I can see that this is my chapter 3 test, you'll notice right up here, right above file, it says chapter 3 test. So again, I would go to my Georgia Inspire folder, find my grade level, find the module that I want, and I believe module 3 is on habitats for 3rd grade. So I would open the habitats one, and if I just hover, remember, over these questions, it's going to pop out and show me what the question looks like. So I can simply click and start dragging questions that I like. So I like that question. I'm going to scroll down here. I like this other question. Oops, there we go. So I'm just going to start dragging and dropping them in here as I want, or which questions I want. The other thing you'll notice is that when I go back here to the question, you'll notice that next to the question, there's a gray dot or a gray circle. That lets me know that I already have that question here on my assessment, okay? Anything with a green dot, I do not have it on my test yet, but anything with a gray dot is already part of my test, okay? And then the same thing, I can pull from the question sets, but I can also pull from the test down at the bottom. So let's say, for example, I go into my test for 3rd grade here, and I go to habitats, and I look at, maybe I want to pull some questions from lesson 1, from the lesson 1 test. So again, just simply click and start dragging in the questions that you want from whichever question set or whichever test down at the bottom you want to pull from. So it's a nice way for you to be able to create your own assessment too. Maybe you might look at the module test and say, you know what, it's too many questions, or, you know, it's not exactly what I want to test them on, things like that. So you can definitely have a lot of flexibility inside of eAssessment to create your own assessment that you want for your students. Okay, let me check the chat box real quickly. Yes, there are assessments for kindergarten. So let me show you. So I don't know why it does this, but you'll notice that, and this is in all of our programs. It's not just Georgia. It's in Florida and Louisiana. It's in any state. Doesn't matter what program we're in. But you'll notice that the folder structure is always grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then kindergarten comes at the end. So you do have question sets for every module for the little ones. We did not leave you out. And let me actually pull some of these over so that you can see what those look like. And the little ones are going to get a lot of things where it's more images that they're looking at, kind of like what you're seeing here on my screen. So the girl pushes her socks off. Is that true? I apologize. I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. So you push the keys on your computer. So it's going to be a lot more images than anything else. But yes, your little ones definitely, we did not forget about them. You definitely have assessments for them. I see another question. Any read aloud options? So inside of eAssessment, no, there are. Let me just double check that before I say no, but let me pull from the questions down here from the module test. But I believe eAssessment does not have, it does not have audio or, read aloud for each question. So these, the teacher would actually have to read aloud for the students, or, depending on how they're doing it right now at home, the parents or a sibling might have to read it aloud for the student, have to read the statement aloud for the student. Okay, so I showed you the question sets, the test. I showed you how you can modify them by making a copy of it. You can print them out. We talked about creating assessments by difficulty level, by standards, so being very specific as to what you're looking for, even by depth of knowledge. Any questions before I move on to how to assign one of these assessments to your students? Anything else that you all might be wondering about?
I have a question. I wasn't in the first session, so I don't know if you covered it. But once we administered the assessments, is there a way to gather the data from the assessments?
Yes, yep, and I might not be able to show you lots of data because it's only going to be one student taking the test right now, but I'll show you where you can pull different reports. Yes, you're able to pull reports. Is that what you mean by data?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. And you are perfectly fine in asking these questions. We did not cover e-assessment in the first session. The first session was purely where to locate your resources and your lesson presentations and things like that. So this session is strictly assessments. Okay, so in order to assign an assessment, whether it's a McGraw-Hill pre-made assessment or whether it's one that you as the teacher created, you are going to go to the top right-hand corner here. Remember, right now I am in the test generator section, but now when I click on the drop down, I'm going to select classes and assignments. So I want to go and select my class so that I can assign them some work. Here in the center, in the blue section, you'll notice that it says drag a class to this area to begin. So I only have this one class, and you can always click on the little plus sign to see who your students are in that class. So I just have Steve and Inez, and I'm just going to click on the name of my class, drag it in there. Right now, I have never assigned these students any assessments to complete for me, so that's why there is nothing here. It's just an empty white space, but I am going to assign them an assessment. Now, the tests are going to be down here at the bottom left. So anything, I can go into the My Test library and select one of these random tests that I built. Or I can go into the Georgia Inspire Science folder and select one of the pre-made assessments that are in here as well. So right now, I'm just going to select this this lesson 1 test from module 1 in 3rd grade and just drag it over. And it's going to walk you through the assignment process. So here it's telling you this is the name that your students are going to see. We're titling it Earth's, the name of the module, and then the lesson, and letting them know it's a test. Right below it, it's going to ask you, are you going to record this as as an assignment, like you want this to be like an official grade, or is this just going to be a study guide that you created for your students to maybe practice with? I'm going to leave it as a recorded assignment. I'm going to leave it as a test, and I'm just going to click next on this page. The next part is going to ask me if I want to exclude any students. So maybe I'm in a classroom setting where my student or one of my students has to have a print assessment, like they have it on their IEP. I can't give them anything digitally. So this is where I would say, oh, okay, you know what, Steve cannot take it digitally, and I don't want him to come on my report as never taking the test and having a whole bunch of zeros, because he is going to take the test, but he has to take it in print. So again, this is just something that you would do so that it doesn't mess with the data that you're going to see in your reporting when you pull your reports, okay? So I would click on the student, And then here in the center, you'll notice I have these little arrows where I can move Steven over and exclude him. But right now, I'm going to leave Steve here and put him back and just include him in here. Click next. This is where you're going to select when this test becomes available to your students. Like, when do you want to assign this? So the first option here, how many times can they take this assignment? Well, this is a test, so I'm only going to say they can only take it one time. Now, you do have the option, maybe you tell your students you're going to allow them to take it twice and take the better score or the higher score out of the two, but I'm going to say one time, that's all you get. The second option here is you can tell it the specific date and time that you want this test to be made available for your students. So maybe I want this test to be available for them next week on Monday from 8 o'clock to 8:30, okay? Or from 1 to 2, whatever the case may be. So you can set those parameters as far as start date, end date, start time, and end time. You can also set a time limit. I'm not going to set a time limit, and I'm not going to set an available time. I'm just going to say once I click assign, they're going to be able to go in there and start working on it right away. But if you wanted to use a time limit, you can, go ahead and put an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to do that right now. The next section, presentation, allows students to check their responses. So if I allow students to check the responses, this means that after they answer question 1, there's going to be a little checkbox on question 1 that they can click on to see if they got it right or wrong. I feel that usually when you give students that option, they take a lot longer to complete the test than they normally would. So I would say just don't allow them to check the responses after each question. If you do allow them to check the responses, you'll notice how many times can they check it, an unlimited number of times, or you can just say they can check it one time and then they have to move on to the next question, which is fine as well. So you decide. And then this part teachers love, of course, online, you can scramble your questions and the answer choices. So my number 1 might be your number 5. For choice A, for me, might be your choice C. So it scrambles everything. And then really, I would say you don't really need this algorithm variable. This is more for our middle school and our high school who are solving different kind of math problems and like physics and chemistry and things like that. But I would just deselect that part. Once you're done, click next. What do you want your students to see after they complete this assignment? So you have 3 options here. Number 1, you don't want them to see anything at the end of the assessment, so they won't know until you, the teacher, tells them. Number 2 is they get a percentage. And number 3 is that they get a full detailed report. And these are the options that you can choose. You can choose to show them the correct answer, the rationale behind it, the student response, the correct scoring, the question scoring, you decide. Usually, most teachers go with the second option here, which is the students get to see a percentage and that's it. Then click next. This is going to give you a summary of everything that you have filled out right now. You can always go back and edit this. So like if you want to all of a sudden set a time limit, you can go ahead and set a time limit. If you want to set a specific date and time to start this, you can always go back and edit. But right now, I'm just going to click finish. So there is that test that has been assigned. And I'm going to quickly go over now to my student side. Oh, and I might have logged out my student. Let me see. Let's see if my student is still working. Okay, my student is still in here. So as my student, you'll notice that when the student logs in, it tells them that there is a modules, earths, rocks, and soil lesson 1 test that has been assigned to them. So remember, in order to get to that test, your students are going to click on menu, and then they're going to select homework from the list. Once they're inside of homework, this one, it's under the due later section because it's not due today. Here's that test. They would simply click on the drop down, and then they have to click on the little notebook to go ahead and take that test. It will open, like you saw, in a separate window. So it'll say, are you ready to begin? Yes. So this is what it would look like. How are they different? Now this one, I'm just going to type in some randomness. I'm not really reading the questions, ladies and gentlemen, so don't judge me on how badly I do on this test. but I just want to show you. So here's some true and false. Whoops. And the students can click on the choices down here like I am, or they can click right next to the question and select from the little drop down. Either way, it will still recognize their answer. So I believe this one only had 10 questions to it. Whoops, I'm highlighting instead of, there we go. And click finish. So again, are you sure you want to finish the assignment? Once you submit, you know, everything is final, click yes, I'm done. And like I said, I knew I wasn't going to do so great. So as of right now, you'll notice though it says I have 44%. And that's because my teacher can always, my teacher has one question. I believe it was the first one that pulled up for me. That was an open-ended response. So that one has not been scored. So there's still a shot here that I could get higher than a 44% if my teacher gives me credit for that one open-ended response. Okay. So any questions on the student experience? Okay, we're good. I don't see anything.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
When you were pulling over the students' names, last year I had an issue where I had students from a previous year that were showing up. So every time I would try to create a test, I would have to go through and delete like 25 students out of there. Is there something on the teacher side that we can do? Is that something that administration would have to do?
That was something that was mentioned in the first session that we did today, and Christina said that that was something that she was going to talk to IT about to find out if it's something that they can do on their end. Something that I suggested to her was that you'll notice here, like on the name of my class, it says Miss Oriana 2020-2021. So that lets me know that these are my students for this school year. So like if I had another class in here from last year, I would know, don't even bother with those students. This is your current class that you're working with. So I kind of mentioned that to her as maybe being an option if, you know, if IT can somehow put in their school year so that you know very quickly and easily that that's the correct class. But yeah, that was something that was brought up. Okay, so you're welcome. Anything else? So again, whether it's on assigning it or what does the student see, I mean, I wanted to show you that student experience because I feel like that's important so that you know exactly when the student says, well, how do I find that assignment or that assessment? They have to click on menu and then go to homework and then click on that little thumbnail like you saw me do. Okay, so reporting for the teacher. Okay, so here again, I'm going to select the different section. Right now, I am in classes and assignments. But if I click on the little drop down on the top right hand corner, I am now going to go to reporting. So again, in the middle section, it tells you what you have to do. You have to drag a class over in order to begin the process. So here's my class, dragging it over. And then here I have, oh, you know what? I skipped a step. Let me go back. Let me go back to class and assignments and bring on over this class here that I had. So again, remember that this assignment or this test that I gave my students, there was a question that needed to be manually scored. So here it's telling you the assignment name, the date, the end date if you had set an end date, what the average score was. I only had one student take it, so it's telling me that it's 44%. Does anything need manual scoring? You'll notice that it says yes. So when you click on yes, it shows you. Now, had more than one student taken it, obviously I would see all of my students on the left-hand side. But right now, only Inez has taken this this assessment. So you're only going to see the results for Inez Harper. So once I click on the student, it's going to show me all of their, it'll show me the question type, which ones have been graded. Obviously the true and false and the multiple choice have been graded, but here is that open-ended response, which was that very first one. And it's telling me the correct answer should have been granted and, so down here it tells me the full correct answer. Granite and turquoise are both hard rocks. They are different colors. Granite is used for statue and turquoise is often used for jewelry. So that's what I'm looking for my students to hopefully have responded as their answer. However, right below that, this is what my student responded, which was, again, I just randomly typed something in there just to have something in there. So you as the teacher, for that one question, you'll notice that every question has an edit button, but especially for those open-ended responses or those essay questions, you would simply click edit and then decide, and I'm just going to say that we're going to give myself credit for that one question. Click update. And now remember that score, let me click done. So that score for that student went from 44 to 50% because I gave them credit for that one open-ended response. Let me 1 second, I see a question coming in. Is there a way to share our test with the other teachers on our team so that they can give out the same test to their students, or do they have to create their own? Okay, so no, they don't have to create their own. You are able to share them. So let me show you real quickly how you would share those assessments with your teachers. Let me go back to my test generator. So let's say those tests that I had created, these random tests that I have here down at the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead. You can click on them and then do a right click on them. And let me see if it gives you the option here to export it. Okay, it doesn't give you the option here to export it. So what you would have to do as a teacher is drag it over and then go File, Export. And then these are the options that it gives you to export. I can send you, I'm pretty sure I have a user guide that I can share with Christina and then she can share it out with you all. But as a teacher, I would export it as a Cognero file. And then when the teacher gets it on her end, you know, whoever you're sharing it with, they would click options and then they would select import Cognero, because that's how you shared it out with them. And then that's how that's the only way that you can share the assessment in our platform. But like I said, I'll send Christina the steps or the user guide that we have on eAssessment so that she can share it out with you all. Let me see the chat box real quickly. Okay, perfect. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to show you was reporting. How do you see the reports or for the different assessments? So again, on the top right-hand corner here, I'm going to go to my drop down for my sections and select reporting. Once I'm in reporting, again, it's going to ask me to drag my class. So here's my class. And then, and it's hard to tell because again, every state is so different and every content area is so different. We always list all of the reports, but there might be some reports in here that don't apply to Inspire Science. I just want to make that clear. So like if you go, and I'm trying to think of, this one might not apply to Inspire Science, this prescription report. And if you're not sure the kind of information that that report is going to generate for you, you can always, you'll notice like right here, assignment results. If I click on this little question mark bubble, it pops out and it tells me, hey, this report is going to give you this and this and this information. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a description as to what to expect from each one of these reports. The proficiency report, you have a progress report, you have a question item analysis report. So right now, if I just select this one, the assignment results, and click OK, click OK again, because that's the one assignment, that's the only assignment that I have in here. So this is what this report is going to give me. And again, it's not the best report to show you because there's only one student in here that has taken my test. But it'll show you the student's name, how many points they got, the percentage, when did they start it, how long did they take to take the test, where did they fall in the range, and then obviously from 0 to 59, she's the only one that has taken it, so she's my only one that's falling within that range. So again, not the best report to show you, but I just wanted to show you some sort of report that you would be able to see. But again, if you want to run a different type of report, just drag the class over. Maybe I want to do a question item analysis, this last one here. Click OK. And then if I had more assignments here, it would give me the list of all the assignments. So I would just have to select the assignment that I want. But right now, like I said, I only have that one test. So that's the only test I can choose to run the report from. So here it's going to give me the breakdown of what questions this student got correct and which ones they got incorrect. Any questions on reporting? No? Okay. So I'm looking at my time. We have 4 minutes. If there's anything that I can answer for you, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, and I'll share this recording out